Hello and welcome to the Seven Figure Conversations with Asa Laveau podcast show. I am your host, Asa Laveau. I am very pleased, excited, enthralled that you have decided to join us in this conversation. If you have no idea what it is that I do, besides being the podcast host of the Seven Figure Conversations, what I do is I transform industry experts to become industry icons in 4 steps without coaching. That's what I actually do. So if you are interested in joining the Wealth Swap and being an industry icon, please feel free to go to the show notes and we have that information for you. But let me be very clear, you didn't come here to hear me today. You did not. I am very clear that you did not come here for me. However, I would like to know you for sure after we co-create this moment. And please know that as a listener, as a viewer, yes, you are involved in this co-creation of today. So the person that I have for you is a woman who I believe is going to make a significant difference for you today. And when I say significant, I mean something that will not only stir your bank account, but stir your soul. I am very clear about why I asked this woman to be here today. So I'm letting you know right now, if you have not hit 7 figures, which is the most of you, I understand who my audience is, you haven't hit it, and that's okay. We're all in this together. So if you haven't hit it, you need to take out pencil, pen, paper, iPad, whatever it is that you need to do, because it's about to go down. Because Maya Elias is here with us today. And if you don't, I don't know why you wouldn't know her. I really don't know why. But just in case you haven't, please know that this is someone who understands that very fine intersection between faith and finance. Like, how do you marrying that together? So if you are someone who definitely understands what it means to, let's say, go to vacation Bible school, you are somebody that knows, and I was thinking about my own experience, know what Holy Convocation in Memphis, Tennessee is. You probably want to stay. You probably want to stay a little while and learn, because I don't believe that Christians or anybody else should be broke. I just don't. So to talk about that more, I'd like to invite you to know or be reintroduced to Maya. Hello, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Same. So before we go into anything, but no, I'm gonna say it again. Thank you for being here. Like, for real. You even came blinged out for me. I appreciate it. So before we get into anything, I would love to know what little Maya used to pray for.
Oh, funny enough, I think what came to mind when you asked me that was, I feel like I used to pray for other people. I felt like I had a pretty great life. So I do remember, like, when I was younger, if my mom wasn't feeling well, like if she had a stomach ache or a flu or something like that, I would pray for her. So I think my first memory of prayer that's coming to mind right now is just praying for other people.
Praying for other people. And how do you feel that grown-up Maya would make little Maya feel?
I think grown-up Maya would make little Maya feel empowered and special and unique, for sure.
That's dope. I'm happy for little Maya to have an adult Maya. So just so we know up front what it is that you do, please let me know, how do you impact so many lives? How are you able to live this 7-figure life now?
Yeah, so I am a business coach and speaker. I'm the CEO of a company called Built to Impact. And we primarily work with women of faith who know they have a gift, a skill set, and a message that they want to monetize. So we help our clients get clear on their message, package their expertise, and then build a 6-figure service-based business. So we work with coaches, consultants, speakers, service providers like graphic designers, photographers. And I service those people and make an impact through my coaching programs and my live events, especially Impact Weekend, which is one of our bigger live events where we have a lot of reach and a lot of impact. So I love that I get to do that and just work with so many brilliant women.
So the fact that you work with women of faith, and I having a very close experience with women of faith, with my mother being a pastor, different women in my family being preachers, missionaries, and the like, I often see that women of faith are the most, or one of the most segmented groups that feel that they don't deserve money. Mm-hmm. Has that been your experience?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's oftentimes a guilt associated with making money. We feel like, oh, because God gave me this gift, I have to give it out for free. And, you know, I think that's a harmful truth. I'll put that quote unquote that people believe. And I think it's definitely holding a lot of people back. I don't think that, you know, I don't think everybody needs to monetize their purpose, because I think sometimes turning your purpose into business can make things harder. But I absolutely know that your purpose shouldn't put you into poverty. And so if you want to monetize your purpose, you need to be charging, you need to be strategic. You should not be living a broke life, essentially, by helping other people. You should be living well. And I think one thing that I tell women of faith is that if you believe that you serve a limitless God, then stop trying to limit your abundance. There's so many blessings that we're trying to limit with ourselves, but we're saying that we are attached to the vine. We're saying that we're attached to a limitless God, but we keep limiting all of the blessings that we could have.
So agree on the limitless. Thank you for saying that. So for those of you who are listening and watching, that was point number one. Not allowing your purpose to be in the poverty. I get it that you're into the conversation already. I appreciate that, but please know this is a learning situation. If you are not taking things from this, then what is all this for? Because as far as the purpose, and you talk about the coaching and consulting, so many times, especially when that's aligned with a faith, coaching and consulting can seriously look like, you know, what we used to call praying for the sick and shut in. When you are that type of person who does that level of outreach, or something that we used to have in church when I was growing up called purity class, or sunshine band, or young people's willing worker, all those different, even vacation Bible school, all those different things. If you are someone who finds yourself in that type of training role continuously, there are so many ways that you are able to take what's over here, where you may be giving your heart and doing it from the abundance of who you be, and then putting it over here and attaching a 5-figure payday or more from that. What has been your experience with translating what you do, maybe that's faith-based, into something that can fund your life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me with my business, I don't even think that I intentionally was like, I'm going to build a business where I serve women of faith. For me, because I started out building my personal brand through blogging, I just naturally talked about my faith. And I didn't think of it as a strategy. You know what I mean? I think that there are some people who strategically infuse that in their messaging, which I do think is fine. But early on, I didn't think like, okay, let me make sure I talk about God so people know I'm a Christian. It was just kind of like, hey, here's what I did today. I prayed about this, or here's what I felt God telling me. And people were like, man, I really love that you're so open with your faith. And I'm like, well, would I be closed with my faith? Like, is loving God a secret? I don't know. But it's so interesting just to see what people are drawn to and what they think is courageous. So I don't think it was more so of like, well, I grew up in the church and I knew I could build a business doing the same thing. It was just like, my beginnings started by creating MySpace pages, being a graphic designer, being a web designer. And it just so happened that I would talk about my faith as I blogged about being, a freelancer and growing a creative business. So that's how those two things merged.
So I don't know if anybody else caught that, but she just said that she was designing MySpace pages. So as someone who turns 40 this year, I am definitely of the generation that let me just be very clear. If you came to my MySpace page, it was an experience.
That part, yes.
It was a complete experience, and you wanted to be in my top 10. You really, you did, you felt some type of way. So I would love to know the Maya that was blogging and, you know, designing MySpace pages. What was that Maya like? Who were you then?
Oh my gosh, I was just so ambitious. I was so excited that people were paying me to do something that I love to do. You know, when I started entrepreneurship or even freelancing, I didn't go into it thinking I want to be an entrepreneur. It was just, I had fun doing this in high school. Somebody offered me money to do it when I was in college. And I was like, man, this feels really cool. Making some money on the side, you know, doing something that I do for myself for free anyway, or trying to do for friends anyway. So I think that was really fun. And one thing that I tell people is like, I feel so fortunate that I started when I started, because this was before like Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, all of the things. I think with Facebook, you needed to have a .edu email to even like have an account. And so there was not a lot of comparison. And I got to enjoy the experience of being creative and getting paid for it. Whereas now I think a lot of new entrepreneurs, they feel such a pressure to hit 6 figures the first year and make a lot of money the first year that they don't actually get to enjoy what they do. I really, for years, got to enjoy what I did. And of course, I still enjoy it, but there's a higher level of responsibility that I just didn't have back then.
And with your designing attention to detail early on, how was that an easy transition to you being the sought out branding expert that you are now? Were there things that definitely aligned, or did you feel like there was a jump?
I definitely think there was some alignment there, because really the gap that I had noticed as a designer was that people would want a website, they wanted it to look pretty, they wanted attention, but they didn't really know how to garner attention. They didn't really know how to drive traffic to their website. They didn't know what their website should say to keep people on there. And that was really the gap. People struggled with their copy. And that was where I found my gifting in messaging. I really know how to take these complex ideas that experts have and simplify it so people understand, one, what they do, and then two, the value of what they do. And so that is when I started helping people with messaging, doing a little bit of coaching with people to help them tell their brand story. And then eventually I decided to go full-time into coaching, online courses, and digital products.
So I'm so thankful that you have brought up the secret word, messaging. Mm-hmm. I am very, yes. Okay, so now we got to really do it. So now that you talked about messaging, I myself am even, just within the last week, have looked at my messaging and like, wow, my messaging has not been aligned with who I say I support and who I serve at all. Mm-hmm. When people are coming to you, are there things that about messaging that you could give us in this moment? Like, there are so many 6-figure earners who are watching, listening to us now, and they feel that they look at you and they're like, you know, I believe in God. I think Jesus is cool, but I want to make 7 figures like Maya. And they think that they just need to pray more. Can you talk to them and talk to us about some action steps to be more in alignment with the messaging? My thing is, what I found is whether you do ads or not, your message still needs to be able to penetrate the hearts and minds of the person that you're going after.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be able to speak the language of the people that you want buying from you. That's really what it comes down to. And so I say your messaging is all about who you are, who you serve, and how you serve them. And so if you can't clearly articulate that, like when you go on a podcast and somebody says, tell me about yourself. What do you do? You need to be able to answer that clearly without stumbling over your words or over explaining and losing the audience. And if you recognize that when you're networking and having conversations with people and their eyes are glazing over, they're looking for somebody more interesting, there's something off with your messaging, or you might just be speaking to the wrong people. And you'll know if you're speaking to the right person if done the work to really master your message.
And I'm going to go there. What type of work could they be doing? Let's say they want to work with you. They don't have a coach. They don't realize, like, let's say your events aren't coming up next week. So what can they do now? Are there any exercises? Are there any tips that you would give them now?
Yes, I really think one of the number one things that people should be doing to get clear on their message is getting on the phone with people. I think a lot of people want to skip the market research phase. They're too busy to get on the phone. They're trying to make sales through the DMs, all of that. And it's like, you don't know these people enough to just be asking them for money, and they don't know you enough. Your brand is about that know, like, trust factor. These people don't know you. If you haven't been consistent online, they probably don't know you enough to like you, and they damn sure don't trust you. And it comes down to that. If you want to build that know, like, trust factor, and you want to be able to do it with the masses, you got to start smaller. You got to be willing to do that one-on-one. Everybody wants to jump to one-to-many. They want to get all these people in their courses. I applaud that, but we gotta start with step one, babe. So get on the phone with people. You want to make sure when you are getting on the phone with people, you're getting information about them so you can make sure that their feedback and advice is in alignment with the direction you're trying to go in, right? So the feedback and advice I might get from somebody who is not trying to start a business is not going to be the same type of feedback and advice that I can apply to my messaging from somebody who wants to make six figures, for somebody who's a woman of faith, from somebody who does want to build a six-figure business. So the first thing is get very clear on the type of person you want to work with, and then post about it on your LinkedIn or your Instagram or your Facebook and say, in 2023, I want to coach more, whoever your audience is, single moms, Black women, first-time moms who want to lose weight, whatever your audience is, get on the phone with as many of them as possible. 5 people is not market research. 7 people is not market research. Set a goal to get on the phone with at least 40 people and let them pick your brain, and you pick their brain as well. I know we talk about don't want to get on the phone. I don't want people trying to pick my brain for free. Guys, we got to start from the beginning. Let these people pick your brain, because when they're picking your brain, one, they're helping you get clear on what type of content you should create. Take notes as they're asking questions. At the end of all of these calls, you should be able to say, man, my last 10 calls, these 8 out of 10 of these people asked me this question multiple times. That's a blog post right there. That needs to go in your messaging. Man, a lot of these moms said they were struggling with this, or a lot of these wives said they were struggling with this in their marriage. I need to make sure that I address this on my sales page when I'm helping women who want to mend their marriage. You want to get as much data as possible.
So agree. And I believe, because I was once this person too, when you first mentioned getting on the phone, I am sure that you just energetically arrested some people with that statement. Because so often, let's say, even if people, especially from faith, a lot of times, if you are a person of faith, you have done a lot of things speaking wise. So you may have had to lead worship service. You may have had to do the prayer. When you were little, you were doing Christmas and Easter speeches. So maybe speaking to a crowd isn't your pain point. What's your pain point is actually getting on the phone. So how were you always comfortable on the phone, or is that a skill that you had to develop to get to where you are now?
Oh, I definitely had to develop it. I did not like getting on the phone. I thought it was a waste of time. I was like, I'm not getting paid for this. Like, just tell me what you want on your website and I'll design it. Like, why are we getting on the phone? Why am I answering questions? And that's how I got into coaching. I was like, everybody wants to get on the phone. I'm going to charge for it. And then when I had to figure out how to do sales calls, and I realized, obviously I'm not going to charge for sales calls. I'm practicing one of the pieces of advice that was given to me was just relinquish the desire to get a yes. Just see how you can serve them on the phone. And that just made things so much easier for me. It was like, I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to see what this person wants. And that really allowed me to learn about my audience.
Thank you for saying that, because I agree. When you get on the phone, so many things you learn, not just about the other person, but you learn about yourself. You learn that maybe you're not as patient as you thought you were. You may learn that you think that you're clear, and the people around you hype you up so much that they help you think that you're clear. And then when you get on the phone, it's like everybody's like, I don't get it. I don't. And now you're hard headed, like, well, maybe you're not my target market since you don't get it. Because I was right. That guy. I was in my feelings and in my 20s. Feeling some type of way, like, I guess they're not my person, but they really could be your person if you just dived a little bit more into clarity and not into ego.
That's it. You made a good point about the people around you making you feel like, oh yeah, you know your stuff. You know your stuff when you're getting paid. So as much as your family can hype you, unless any of them are cutting you a check, you really don't know for sure. You don't know if your stuff works until you're getting paid, flat out.
Exactly. So as this woman of faith, this Black woman of faith, because for those of you that can't see her, she's Black. This Black woman of faith, what has been your biggest nudge, your biggest catalyst for your desire to even get to seven figures in the first place?
Oh man, I think just seeing what would be possible for me and also knowing the amount of impact that I would have. I'm somebody who's not driven by money at all. I don't even have the work ethic to be driven by money. I love doing what I do, but I'm not an overworker. Like, I'm willing to do the work and I work very hard, but I do not overwork. I'm not one of those people who burns themselves out and works to the bone to prove that I have value. I'm like, I worked 3 hours today, time to go sit on my couch. So because I'm not driven by money, I am driven by the amount of people that I have the potential to help. And I know that if I generate seven figures, that is a result of helping as many people as I possibly could with the knowledge that I had and the marketing strategies that I had. And so I think when it comes to setting these money goals, if for those of you listening, if you are uncomfortable talking about money, it's important to understand that money is a result. It's a result of doing the work. It's a result of asking for the money. It's a result of providing a service. And so when I see that I hit seven figures, I'm like, okay, that's a result of the impact that I made. If I can make more money, that means I'm helping more people.
So you talking about the overworking part, I believe that you saying it could begin the process of freeing a lot of people, but I don't think they're free yet. So,
okay.
And I say that because before I was able to hit my first six figures, I was definitely following a lot of individuals online at seminars and conferences that were making me feel as though I wasn't enough. They wanted me, because I've done 20 years in the military, they wanted me to bring my military work ethic to a business work ethic. And I realized that's very much an entrepreneurial or even factory worker type of idea when it comes to productivity. And it's not necessarily needed at the growth or scaling stage, truly. Did you just always know that you weren't going to have to work as hard, or did you just find it out?
I mean, I think probably just trial and error. And I don't think that it's like, oh, I didn't work a lot. That's just my personality, right? Like, there are some people that specifically are like, I have to work a 16-hour day or else I feel like I'm a loser or I feel like I'm lazy. A lot of high performers are like that. For me, it's just kind of like, listen, this is the mental capacity that I have for the day. So even when people are like, well, how long will it take to make six figures, or how many hours should I be working a day? It's not really about how many hours you're working. It's about what you're doing with those hours. So it's more so about doing the right work than doing a lot of work. So it really does come down to quality more than it does the quantity.
Agreed, because you don't have to condition yourself to being energetically and physically wasted.
Right. Yeah.
To make a difference and make more money. You just don't have to do that.
Right. Exactly.
At all. And when clients come to you, are they ones that already feel as though that they are enough, or do you have to coach them into it? Now, look, I got you. God got you. Like, you don't have to do all these things. You don't have to kill yourself to show up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a conversation you have with a lot of your clients, or do people just usually come clear about that?
No, I think people definitely come stressed and ready to kill themselves with working. Especially if I'm working with a lot of moms, I think it's kind of just like innately in them. Like, well, I bust my butt at home, make sure my house is together, make sure my kids are good, and I make sure work is good, all of that. And I think at the unique time that people come to me, I'm helping them hit a certain goal. And so even though I'm the type of person that I don't overwork myself, I do have seasons where I intentionally work harder, work longer, work more hours. And I love seeing that part of myself, because I'm like, okay, this is just affirmation for me. Like, just because I don't work myself to the bone doesn't mean I'm lazy. I still got it. If I need to work a 12-hour day, I can knock it out and do it very well. And so when my clients do come to me, it might be a season where I'm like, hey, I know this is tough right now, but I'm going to need you to wake up an hour earlier, or I'm going to need you to stay up an hour later. But no, this is for a season. And the type of work that you're putting in during a launch, or when you're striving for a big goal, it has to be for that season. It's not something that's sustainable. And so I have to find that balance of where my client is, what their current goals are, and then advise them accordingly.
So you're talking about the seasons, and like I said, as someone who grew up in church and my parents were pastors, my mother still is one, I definitely am remembering church songs about, it's a new season, it's a day, scriptures about seasons. The question I have now is, because we're looking at you, we know about the season that you're in now. What's the season that you're preparing for personally?
For me, so when you say personally, you mean like me in business?
You in business, yes.
Yeah. Me in business, honestly, the season that I'm preparing for is actually getting more back into my business, working more in the business, and then figuring out then from there who needs to take over. So for me, I would say in 2022, I let my hands off of a lot of things. I delegated a lot. I love delegating. If you can do it, have at it, more power to you. But I think I let my hands off of too many things too early. And so for the season I'm going to be going in is getting back in, operating in different departments with a level of excellence, measuring my own success in the things that I do. So that way, when I do delegate it, I have a higher expectation of when I hand it off to somebody else.
So that was a word that I caught, and I'm going to dig deeper. You said delegate before it was time to do so. You let your hands off of some things. How do you know, like looking back, were there signs? Was it in retrospect, was it clear that you did that? And how would you know if you were going too fast and letting your hands off of things?
I don't know if it was clear to me. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought, as a CEO, you want to be able to relinquish control. You don't want to be the person doing all of the things. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, delegate these areas. You don't need to be focusing on these things. Honestly, I think it was just a trial and error thing. It was my second year making seven figures, really learning how to be a CEO, learning how to be a leader. And so for me, I think for me, that was really just a trial and error thing. And I think that's what it is in business a lot. I think we want to know all of the answers. And it's like you find the answers for messing up. And I think so many people are nervous to mess up because, yes, it does cost time and money. It surely costs money, but it's the game. Like, you got to be willing to play the game if you want to be in entrepreneurship.
Exactly. And you going back to your delegation, I was looking at your Instagram and you really are putting that delegation to practice. I saw like the assistant that you have is like meal prepping, but not just meal prepping. Your assistant is meal prepping on a luxury level. Like you, you are benefiting from somebody who it seems like the thing that you delegated to them has become their ministry or is their ministry, because you don't place and make things look the way your things looked when you were showcasing your meal prep. People don't offer that. So I say that to say, do you believe that delegation is synonymous with luxury?
Oh, I don't know. I think people think that. I don't think that it has to be. I think it's almost a little bit dangerous to think that because, again, we sometimes have a negative connotation around asking for help. Like, no, I don't need to do this, or I can do this on my own, or, who do I think I am asking for help? I think it's just kind of like, hey, you need what you need to optimize at your best. And the world is a better place when you feel like you are at your best. So if at your best, somebody else is doing your laundry, that's great. If you want to call it luxury, cool. But the fact is, you're at your best. You're probably nice to your husband. You're probably nicer to your kids, spend more time with them when you're not doing laundry. So I don't think that it's always a luxury. I think it's an advantage that we should work to create for ourselves. I think we all have a lot of privileges that we choose to ignore. A lot of us have enough money to delegate laundry. It's like $30 a week. Like, we just do. A lot of us have the luxury to ask somebody for some type of help, and we're just not leaning into our advantages and our privileges. And I wish we would do that more.
What's the next thing on your list to delegate that you haven't yet?
That I haven't yet?
Uh-huh.
You know what I wish I could do, but it's physically impossible. I wish I could drop my body off at the gym and then just pick it up when it's done.
I do get that though.
Yeah, but unfortunately I can't do that, but that's what's been on my mind.
I mean, I guess that would be plastic surgery. That's the best part so far.
Yeah, it would be. Yep,
that's the best thing so far. So because I know that there are women and women of faith that are listening, and their interests are being piqued as a result of this conversation. What does it look like to not be a seven-figure earner, not be a six-figure earner, but know for a fact that you, Maya, are the answer to my prayer? What does it look like when someone says yes to you? How does their life change? What's the process? Is it out of body? Is it soul affirming? Like, what is that you've heard from past clients?
I think what a lot of clients say after working with me is that they're way more clear and they're way more confident. I think it's a sense of relief when you just know that you're called to do something, but you're like, I have no idea how. I need somebody who can believe in me. I need to borrow somebody's confidence. That's what it feels like. And so it's like you have all of these things in your head. What I hear consistently from clients is, I knew what I wanted to do and I knew what I wanted to say. I just didn't know how to say it and I didn't know how to do it. And so they bring their ideas and I regurgitate it back to them in layman terms, in a way that's clear, in a way that their audience can receive it well and they're able to implement and just get the results that they are looking for. One thing that I really like nerd out about that I just love doing, I'm really, really phenomenal with systems, processes, and creating templates. Like I just love it so much. And so what I love is that people can come to me and there's really no guessing about what to do next, because you take what's in your brain, you plug it into our system or you plug it into our templates and you're good to go. There's really not any more guessing.
As someone who was a coach for 10 years, I really appreciate that. Seriously. I often say there are 5 pillars, actually 6 pillars to a successful business: clarity, marketing, sales, operations, finance, and accountability. And the operational piece, the systems piece, that is so crucial. However, it's usually it's the least sexiest part of business.
Yeah.
It's the part of business that you could find yourself at 2:00 in the morning while you're watching episodes of Martin or Golden Girls, while you're, on your laptop making it happen. So many people just don't get that. So the fact that you have templates and you have a framework that allows you ease when it comes to operations is so good. So if you are listening, and watching to this, I'm going to tell you right now, please send your behind to the show notes because Maya has some things for you and because I've been in this space for so long, I'm clear that so many people don't. So many people that I've experienced myself. I mean, I remember when I first started into coaching, 2012, 2013, I'm paying people half my rent money to come and find out that they know nothing as far as what to do specifically. I had someone tell me, Asa, this is what you do. This is your revenue goal. Okay. And I said, okay, great. How do I do that? And they literally said, figure it out. I just paid you $500 of money that I did not have. You could tell me to figure it out? Ma'am, sir.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Of course. Yeah.
And but how did you get so good at systems and operations? Is that inherent in you, or is that just a result of just being in business?
I don't know. I think I know with my personality type, I don't like a lot of clutter. And it also comes back to, I don't like overworking. Lack of systems means you're going to be overworking. And so I don't like to repeat myself. I don't like to do things over and over that could have already just been systemized. And so when I do something one time that I know that I'm going to have to do on a specific cadence, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, I'm just going to create the system or create the template so that when I do go back to it, all I have to do is extract whatever information I need and then plug it into a template or system. So I think I got good at it because I was like, I'm trying to be the laziest, wealthiest business owner possible.
But I've also been told that if you give it to someone who doesn't have the time, they're going to find the most efficient way to do that.
Yeah.
So you're literally, you're that incarnate. And I've said this before on previous conversations, I understand that I'm going to assume, and I do my best not to assume based on the 4 assumptions, but I'm going to assume a little bit. You being a woman in America, you being a Black woman in America, you being a faith-based Black woman in America in the industry that you're in, you could possibly have had definitely some struggles, some things that didn't feel good, some things that made you cry, some things that you're like, you know what? Forget it. I'm out. I'm out. I understand that. And I am not someone who gets energized by sorrow. I don't get energized by sorrow. I get energized by joy.
Yes.
Like crazy, addictive, out loud, in color kind of joy. Yeah. I'm talking about frolicking kind of joy. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I would love to know, a couple of experiences that you would like to share that you were able to experience as a result of being a seven-figure business owner, because that's the thing that makes me, when I wake up at 3:18 to go to the bathroom and I'm trying to get myself back to sleep and I'm thinking about, my desire, those are the things that pop up in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that you said you're not energized by sorrow, but you're energized by joy, because it is interesting to see like where people's motivation comes from. There are some people that are motivated by being the underdog. They're motivated by something bad happening to them. That's not my story. If something happens to me, I'm going into hibernation for 72 hours and I got to come out like after I, get over it. But for me, I mean, I've had my own trials as a 6 and 7 business owner, and I am very sensitive with the work that I do. I really love working with my clients and the people that I work with. So I feel, I guess like some of my trials or where I feel a sense of sorrow and stuff, or hardships that I've gone through with my businesses, when I feel like somebody is personally attacking me because they might not have liked how something went down in business. And it's like, I can fix a business problem, right? It's like, give you more coaching calls, more templates, help you with whatever it is that you need. But when you try to attack my character, that's where I take things more personally, because it's like, you knew my heart for the year or so that we worked together. You happily publicly praised my name on social media. You thanked me so much for the results that you got 3 months in, that you're still benefiting from a year later. And it's like one thing goes wrong and, things can go left. And so that's where, for me in business, I think where maybe I've had like the biggest blows or the lowest blows, so to speak, where it makes me like want to be weary about who I work with, or do I still want to be a public figure? Do I even want to do this? And then I have those moments where God just reminds me like, hey, I still need you in this season. Think about the hundreds of women that you have helped. Think about the lives that you have touched. Think about how their lives have been changed and not just their business. And so I do have to go back to those joyous moments. And the moments where I feel the most joy is like when I'm with them in person, like at my events or at the client retreats. And I'm like, I can forget everything else. Like being with them in the moment feels so good.
So it sounds like the connection part of your business is the thing that just lights you on fire. And I saw that in your social media, like you really do give it your all for the sake of connection, not for the sake of as though you are trading or bartering that, but it's like that's what you. If I was to create a word cloud, it seemed like connection would definitely be somewhere centered.
I love that. I love that you picked up on that. I agree. I love connection and community. And, when I think about how I said in 2022, like letting my hands off of some things, I think because of maybe attacks in the past that I was like, okay, well, don't be connected, because being connected, because that could then get you hurt. But then it's like, well, then I don't even feel alive in my business, because the thing that makes me feel alive is being connected. So I would agree with you there, like just being connected, just human to human interaction, heart to heart interaction. That makes me feel so good. It's just, you got to do it with the right people. You got to do it with people who have, what is it called? An EQ, emotional intelligence.
Yes, emotional intelligence is huge.
Yeah.
Very clear. So yes, if you are listening to us right now, watching us, please assess, like begin to be very knowledgeable and vigilant about your EQ, because your EQ shows up on sales calls, your EQ shows up on interviews, it shows up in networking events. In the most inopportune times, I will say, if you're not vigilant about that.
Yeah.
And then something that, because of your desire to connect, I wonder if you have moments at this level. Do you have moments of times where you wish you were connected more? And I'm asking this question because when I talk to individuals about why I'm doing this show, why I'm doing this podcast, I'm talking to seven-figure earners, sometimes I get hit with, why are you even talking to them? It's not like they have problems. It's not like they have issues. I'm like, you do realize they're still people, right? Like they're still humans on earth breathing and paying things and like they go to the bathroom and
Right,
all
right.
that, all that's a thing. So is the lack of connection a concern at this level? And if not connection, is there anything that comes up at this level that, like, at this stage in the game, I desire for this thing to change in another way?
Mm. With connection, I would say that's always like a number one priority where I'm trying to find that balance, because sometimes my clients may work directly with me or they'll work with one of the coaches in my program. And I really do emphasize with my coaches, like we want to make our clients feel seen, we want to make them feel safe, and we want to make them feel heard. And so I do like to make sure that there is a clear connection point at every single point, because that's something I pay a lot of attention to when I do business with other people, and not even in the coaching space, but like when I walk into a store, if you don't greet me, it's like you don't get my money. Like it's just common sense to me. So like little things like that, spelling my name right, pronouncing my name right, all of those things to me are like, if you want to make somebody feel like a human, address them as they are in the world. So a lot of those things are incredibly important to me. And, as we grow and scale, I kind of had this fear of like, well, can I still create the connection if the clients aren't working directly with me? And it's more so like, well, what are the practices? What are the characteristics of connection? What are the characteristics of community that need to be within your company and your company culture, so that people still feel that closeness without you having to be the person who always carries it out? So that's one of like the main things that I've learned over the years.
Nice. And so with that, with the connection that you desire, the community that you desire, and based on what you just said now, the consideration of your humanity being a desire, how does that show up in your accelerator program for your clients?
Yeah. So for the accelerator, the way that is set up is there is a very detailed curriculum, which I love. It's very straightforward. So it's really detailed, but it's not overwhelming, because, I don't like overwhelm. And even just the way that I teach on there, right? Like I think a lot of times when people start to teach, it can be very monotone or it could be robotic. And it's like, what am I listening to the Bible app? Like this sounds so boring. But even in my teaching style, I'm conversational. And then the way we actually connect with them is through the coaching calls. So we do weekly coaching calls on there. I run those calls. The coaches will be on there. We're connecting through the chat. Everybody's asking questions, giving feedback. We have our Facebook group where we're asking people about their wins, what they're working on for the week. I might pop in there and share something that, I learned for the week. And then they also get one-on-one calls with the coaches, which is great. So they're working with the same coach throughout the duration of their program. And they're really building that relationship, which I love. And one thing that I love that I've worked with my coaches on is really understanding like, yeah, we're going to help our clients with strategy, but you have this level of intimacy with them where you need to be able to discern like, okay, I know you're saying, you're nervous to launch or you're nervous to go live, but is there something deeper behind that? And we can really, again, understand the humanity of our clients and really understand like, what beyond the strategy is kind of concerning you about going bigger with your business. So just again, that connection. And then we also have a client retreat where we're with them for 2 days in Atlanta. And that's just the best. Like after staring at their faces on Zoom for 12 weeks, we're like, girl, let's hug for real in person.
So Maya, this doesn't sound like an accelerated program. This sounds like entrepreneur church. Was that intentional?
No, it was not intentional. It was not intentional. But I guess it could feel like that, especially for our Impact Weekend. Like there's not a coaching program attached to it, but the 3 days that we're together in person, parts of it can feel like church, because again, I pick up on the areas of my life where I do feel the most seen and appreciated. And with my church, when I walk in, they're greeting people, they're high-fiving people, they're making people feel very welcomed. And I'm like, we have to make people feel like that at our events. So if you feel like it's church when you get there in a good way, not the church hurt way, then I'm glad to have you. And I'm glad you feel like that.
Yeah, I didn't even bring up the church hurt stuff. My thing is, that's not everybody's testimony. That's not. And so since it's not, that's not a truth. That can be your truth, but it's not the truth.
Yeah.
So I definitely didn't want to even go there because there's not for that.
Yeah.
We're good for that. So let's say, because of everything that we heard, we definitely heard about how you started out with being at MySpace. Like the fact that you were, I'm still over the fact that you were designing MySpace page.
Yeah.
Getting to blogging, wanting that connection, being a brand expert, being in publication like Forbes and Black Enterprise, building, built to impact the way you built it over these years, and now having the accelerator program and this phenomenal weekend that you're talking about that feels like Entrepreneur Church. How does somebody even get involved with you? Like, how does somebody reach out? Because maybe they're looking at you and have been looking at you for quite some time, like, Maya ain't thinking about me. Maya ain't trying to see me. Like, she got people that's, way better than me. So if somebody's feeling that way in this moment, what would you have to say to them?
Yeah. First of all, I would say you're a big deal. So do not minimize who you are. I think, again, we based our value based on how many followers we have, based on how much money we have. And you're phenomenal just because you are a son or daughter of Christ, period. Like, you're valuable. Even if you, in the slim chance that you ever came across me and I didn't treat you as valuable, you're still valuable. That's my flaw. That's not your flaw. So it's really important to not minimize your worth and your value. So that is the first thing. The second thing is, if you're like, man, I want to be in the room, or I want to work with you, I want to learn more about what it's like to be a client who's getting this success, you can DM me, you can DM the Built to Impact account. It'll either be me or, a team member responding to you. But we want to, see what you're about. We want to make sure that you're a good fit to be in the room. And again, a good fit isn't based on the value of who you are. We want to make sure that if and when you're investing in your business, that you are investing at the right time with the right company. We could even have maybe a different recommendation for you. So yeah, just shoot us a DM. And I really do try to do my best to remember who I have conversations with. So there will be people that come to Impact Weekend who are like, you might not remember me, but I DM'd you that one time. And I'm like, girl, I know who you are. Like, I remember that conversation. So definitely just shoot us a message and we'll see how we can support you.
That sounds good. So you have your marching orders, people that are watching and listening. All you have to do is DM. Like, it could be that simple. It could really be that simple. And please know that her information is in the show notes. Literally, it's in the show notes. So don't have to wreck your car while you're listening to this or anything like that. Believe me, just go to the show notes and the information is there. So Maya, I so appreciate the time that you have poured into not just the listener, but into me during this co-created moment. I am forever grateful. I am changed. I am invigorated because of what you have said, what you have shared. And of course, I'm going to give you, I would love to know what you have to say to us as we leave. But I would also like to know, what would be your prayer for that one woman who feels that her gift is being trampled upon and not being considered while she, gives her gifts in church and in her family and with her friends? She's doing all of these things. She's giving of herself, and she's knowledgeable and she's good at what she can do. And she's meant for money and greatness and all the things that she was born to be. What would be your prayer for her in this moment?
That's great. My prayer would be that she has the courage to communicate her standards and communicate her boundaries. My prayer would also be that there are people around her that can pour into her, people around her that can reaffirm what her values are, not tell her what they are, but reaffirm it based on what God has already said. But definitely the courage to uphold her boundaries and her standards, because at the end of the day, us protecting our gifts is our responsibility. So we can't stay victim too long to people trampling over our gifts or not appreciating us, because choosing to be in that environment is our choice at the end of the day. So we thank God so much for choice and free will, and we need to operate with that free will, with responsibility and wisdom. So just continued prayer for courage, wisdom, discernment, to be able to be in the right places around the right people who truly value us and our gifts. We have to protect our gifts.
Thank you for that. And so I will piggyback by telling her, you have the choice to connect. Connection is a choice. And yes, I believe that the divine has allowed a person in your life for this time and this moment. You are at the right time, hearing the right thing in the right moment to do just that, to choose a different level of connection, for sure, to change your entire life. So Maya, thank you again. Thank you so much for being here, gracing us with your energy, your presence, your acumen. Most welcome, welcomed for being here. For those of you who are listening, thank you for co-creating this time. Please remember, if you would like to be involved with the Well Spa, because you're interested in being an industry icon, please reach out. I would love to connect with you, to support you, to create your iconic year. And as always, I am Asa Laveau, dreams and radical blessings.